Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Kabir Considers. In this video, I'm going to react to Operation Acid Gambit, a secret Delta Force mission. Now, this is going to be a very, very fun video to watch. You know, I am very interested in like any special forces unit, whether it's the SAS, the SBS, the Navy SEALs, Delta Force, you know, because so much of what they do is shrouded in secrecy. Very, very little about what they do makes it into the public domain. So any morsel of info I can get, whether it's about a secret mission or the equipment they use or just how they operate, how they train, I love that sort of stuff. And you know, I found this video and I instantly knew I had to watch it, and I'm sure a lot of you guys will be interested in it as well. Let's find out what it's all about.
Between late December 1989 and late January 1990, the United States launched Operation Just Cause to invade Panama and oust the formerly CIA-supported military dictator Manuel Noriega. As the sun rose on December 20th, multiple U.S. Special Operations units initiated strategic attacks throughout the country against Panama's defense forces and Noriega's personal property. A particular priority was the retrieval of a man codenamed Precious Cargo. This would be the task of America's Delta Force, in a mission known as Operation Acid Gambit.
Precious cargo.
Kurt Muse was an American veteran who'd been involved in earlier plots to overthrow the oppressive military government led by Noriega. Muse had grown up in Panama and then lived in the United States with his wife, a Department of Defense education activity teacher. After his military service was over, he returned to Panama, where he aided American anti-Noriega efforts by setting up an underground radio station to fight against the regime. However, a Panamanian news organization discovered that he was working for the CIA, and the Panamanian government arrested him. He was sent to Cárcel Modelo, an infamous prison used by the regime to house political adversaries and plenty of innocent people.
You can bet that the conditions in that prison were probably not very humane.
Among Panamanians, it was known as Crime University, since most inmates would become worse criminals once their sentence was over.
Of course.
The prison was built for 250 people, was expanded to house 450 prisoners, and ended up having over 1,000 throughout the years. Muse spent 9 months in solitary confinement, waiting for his country to rescue him.
9 months. You wouldn't blame him for, like, losing his mind. 9 months in solitary?
President George H.W. Bush decided in favor of a rescue mission, after an American military doctor who had been allowed inside the prison smuggled out a letter from Muse. 23 Delta Force operators were assigned to carry out the raid, with support from Night Stalkers. Still, although the mission was planned separately, it was postponed until the United States was ready to carry out Operation Just Cause. Most of the preparations and rehearsals were conducted in the spring of 1988, without consideration for the rescue mission. These began as the relationship between Panama and the U.S. deteriorated, making it increasingly evident that an armed conflict would ensue.
What caused the deterioration of the relationship? I'm guessing maybe the U.S. wasn't happy with the policies of Noriega, you know, maybe the way he was governing. Perhaps he was, I don't know, not complying with, I don't know, trade deals. What caused it to deteriorate?
While previous considerations of liberating Panama had only seen the need for using a surgical special operations unit for a limited mission, the increase in tensions broadened the scope of the plans. Conventional troops were trained, and elements were included from the 5th and 7th Infantry Divisions and 82nd Airborne Division, in addition to units already stationed in Panama. The operation had evolved from an initial plan meant to protect the Panama Canal and its neutrality. A total of 7 rehearsals and ops happened under the Operation Prayer Book series, including Operation Purple Storm, which planned for a possible major battle, and Operation Bushmaster, which supplemented the military police patrols of the Panama Canal with infantry units starting in December of 1987. The collective of plans and future attacks was grouped under Operation Blue Spoon. This mission, however, was renamed Operation Just Cause in a public relations move by the Pentagon.
Yeah, that sounds a lot more emotive. It's definitely going to get a lot more public support. You know, it gets a reaction from people more.
Later on, General Colin Powell would claim that the name served its purpose because, quote, even our severest critics would have to utter just cause while denouncing us. The change gave the invasion an air of legitimacy with the public and the media, despite fears that international law might find it questionable. Delta Force later rehearsed for the rescue mission on a mock-up of the prison built at Eglin Air Force Base in Florida. It was mapped out after notes supplied by the American doctor who had treated Muse.
Nice.
After midnight on December 20th, 23 Delta Force operators aboard 4 MH-6 Little Bird helicopters arrived in Panama, flying towards the overcrowded prison.
You gotta be in and out, man, quickly as possible.
President George H.W. Bush released the 4 reasons for the invasion of Panama on the morning of December 20th, 1989, as the operation was well underway. His main goals were as follows. First, to ensure the safety of Americans in Panama, since Noriega had declared a state of war between the two nations. At the time, around 35,000 American civilians resided in the antagonistic country. As a second goal, Bush claimed to be protecting democracy and the human rights of Panamanians. In third place, were the accusations of drug trafficking and money laundering, standing against Noriega and his administration. Finally, Bush wanted to maintain the Torrijos-Carter treaties that sustained the neutral and continuous use of the Panama Canal for all nations. According to Congress and some legal experts, the treaty allowed the U.S. military to intervene because Noriega threatened the neutrality of one of the most important trade routes in the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
The invasion of the Latin American nation began at 1 a.m. local time on December 20th. The broader Operation Justice required the entry of considerable manpower into Panama. Over 27,685 troops arrived on site throughout the day and following weeks, along with more than 300 military planes. The 317th Tactical Airlift Wing transported many of the soldiers aboard C-130 Hercules aircraft. Among the military vehicles deployed to Central America were the Humvee utility vehicles and the F-117A Nighthawk planes.
Like this plane here, it just it's ridiculous how futuristic it looks, considering, you know, this thing's been around for, you know, what, decades now.
It was their first combat deployment, as well as that of the AH-64 Apache attack helicopter. To enter the country with some level of surprise regarding the sheer amount of approaching forces, the U.S. had 2 EF-111A Raven electronic warfare planes jam radar signals. These forces were deployed to fight against the smaller and lesser prepared 16,000 members of the Panama Defense Forces.
16,000? It's quite a lot of them, though. Alright, let's go. Let's get to the juice of it.
The MH-6 helicopter to the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment landed with the Delta Force on the roof of the Carcel Modelo on December 20th, 1989, to free the American hostage. Snipers from the Delta Force cleared the area of sentries and the Comandancia located across the street from the prison. To keep attention away from the rescue effort, 2 C-130 Spectre planes began shooting at the Comandancia. The heavily armed aircraft succeeded in redirecting attention. The Delta Force troops attempted to enter the prison with a pre-built door charge, but the humidity took down some of the tape on the breech explosive.
Oh, man.
With no other option, they decided to blow up the whole door. Muse would later recall that moment in an interview, quote, "I hear explosions, I hear people running around, and then shots, and then the hall starts filling with a thick, acrid white smoke." One of the Delta operators climbed in through a window outside of the captive cell to shoot the guard who was in charge of eliminating Muse should a rescue effort happen. The rest of the crew entered the prison complex quickly to find their target. The cell door was shot at twice, but the lock was thick and unyielding.
Is this actual footage of the operation or the training operation? This is incredible. Like, how has this been? If this is the actual operation, I wonder when it was declassified.
30 minutes.
Just because, like, his senses are probably heightened. You know, his adrenaline is just pumping.
The occasion marked the freed Other troops were focused on taking over Panama and ensuring that Noriega could be captured. The Navy SEALs had to ensure that Noriega couldn't depart from the country through Ope. SEAL Team 4 was tasked with destroying his plane at the airfield. Led by Commander Lieutenant Patrick Toohey, they landed to the south of the airport at half an hour past midnight. Just 15 minutes later, they were in position. Complicating matters, several armored cars approached the airfield. Commander Toohey sent a squad to position themselves to block the vehicles. The Panamanian Defense Forces opened fire, injuring 6 SEALs. The American troops opened fire as well. In the midst of the battle, the SEALs brought out an AT-4 anti-tank rocket and fired. Noriega's plane went up in flames. Afterward, they rolled in a plane and left it in the middle of the runway to prevent any incoming or outgoing planes from using it. The wounded SEALs were evacuated to Howard Air Force Base, while others secured the airfield. At the same time this battle was developing, a team of 4 SEALs with a rebreather system swam towards Noriega's gunboat.
Wow.
They'd been dropped off by a Zodiac inflatable boat in a mangrove tree grove. Thanks to the rebreather systems, they produced no bubbles and were able to move unnoticed.
That is crazy. Like, so there's basically, from the surface, there's no way of knowing they're even there.
They set up explosives under the Presidente Porras gunboat. Desperate, Panamanian troops shot at the water and even dropped grenades while the SEAL team hid under the pier. The Presidente Porras was destroyed. On their way back, they heard a massive ship sailing close by and opted to swim deeper. They descended to 40 feet under the surface, incredibly dangerous considering their breathing system. Still, none of them suffered any consequences from the depth and were able to return to Rodman Naval Base.
You just know these guys are badasses, man. Just badasses. The training, you know, machines.
In total, the mission wounded 9 SEALs and lost 4. Operation Just Cause continued throughout the following months as the U.S. targeted mostly military units.
Wow, they lost 4 SEALs. Rest in peace.
Kurt Muse published his account of the invasion and overthrow of Noriega in 2006 with the title 6 Minutes to Freedom. He recounted how his family fled the country after his arrest and includes eyewitness accounts of his mistreatment at the Casa Modelo. President Noriega escaped the initial American attack, finding refuge at the Vatican diplomatic mission in Panama City. A nationwide manhunt with a $1 million reward for his capture began immediately after. The American military placed diplomatic pressure on the Vatican and even deployed psychological pressure against the dictator himself.
Wow. I wonder what kind of psychological pressure was applied. I'd love to know what specific methods were used.
The U.S. spent weeks playing loud rock and roll music for days and nights on end in the densely populated city, a genre of music the dictator despised.
Oh my God.
Additionally, the Joint Chiefs of Staff claimed that the music was meant to block parabolic microphones from spying on the ongoing surrender negotiations. The military dictator finally turned himself into the U.S. military on January 3, 1990, and was sent to America on an MC-130E Combat Talon 1 plane to answer for his crimes.
They got him. Crazy story, man. That was intense, man. Intense. I can't imagine, you know, what it must have been like for the Delta Force when they're flying in on the choppers. You know, everything is dark. They're trying to keep as low profile as possible. Just knowing what they're about to do, you know, knowing that there's a decent chance that they might not make it out. Obviously, they've planned everything to a T. They even rehearsed it. They built a fake prison as closely matching the real one as possible. But you just never know what you're going to face when you get on the ground, you know, and just it's an intense lifestyle. You know, it fascinates me, you know, the kind of person that can do what these guys do. You know, great that they managed to rescue that man. You know, like 9 months in solitary confinement would be torturous. It would, you might never really get back to who you were, honestly. You might never get back. Like, even with all of the therapy in the world, 9 months of being by yourself with very, very minimal, you know, human contact, you know, and that human contact is probably, you know, very nasty. They're probably disrespecting you. You know, the food is they're probably barely feeding you. Crazy story, man. Glad that they got him out of there. Rest in peace to the 4 Navy SEALs that were lost. Incredible story. This has got to be made into a movie. Has it not been made into a movie? I'd be very surprised. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.